Good day, everybody. What I want to do today is I want to recap last night's garage Zoom. With all the imperfections that technology has, one of the things that I was wanting to do last night that didn't get to happen was I wanted to record our time together in our garage Zoom that we are starting to experience on Sunday evenings with the youth. And one thing led to another last night, and well, it didn't happen. So, what I want to do today is at least replay or redo the message that I was kind of giving out to the youth last night, as well as just kind of hopefully promise to you that by next week, next Monday evening, you will be able to witness what we do as we will record what goes on in our time together on Sunday evenings, and we will replay it on Monday nights. So with that being said, stay tuned for the actual what we do recorded, replayed on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. as far as I know. But for right now, and as far as today is concerned, I would like to share with you a little bit of insight. So we all know that we have never experienced anything like this. I mean, maybe to some degree, maybe we can kind of talk to our family members who are older and generations older than us, and they can kind of go through some situations that are similar to this. But as far as where we stand right now today and what we're going through, we can literally say that this has rocked our world. It has really caught us off guard in a sense, and it's brought about a lot of feeling of uncertainty. It has brought a lot of anxiety. It has brought a lot of fear, and even somewhat of painful moments to really think about what we have to change and what we have to adapt to. And when things like this hit us out of nowhere, a lot of times we just don't know how to express ourselves, or how really it's difficult for us to share how we really actually feel, and how we will respond to it. Sometimes we surprise ourselves, and we handle it pretty well, and a lot of times we respond to things like this and it tears us apart. Sometimes when things like this happen, we feel closer to God, but other times we wonder where God is at in all of this stuff. Um, each one of us, we're wired differently. We are wired differently, so that means we experience things differently. But that doesn't change the fact that what is going on is going on. And when life comes at us like this, a lot of times we just have to ask ourselves, what do we do next? Where are we going to go from here? How are we going to go about our lives? Well, last week, in response to just kind of starting up this garage thing on Zoom and doing that, we broke into the story of Joseph. And if you know anything about Joseph from the Old Testament, other than his fancy coat, which it plays a lot in his story for the most part, but Joseph had a lot of family drama going on, okay? And drama he definitely played a huge part in creating. He was his dad's favorite child, and he was given special treatments, especially compared to his brothers. And on top of that, he had this dream that his brothers and even his parents would bow down to him and honor him and respect him and worship him. And because Joseph seemed to have had a really hard time in trying to have somewhat of a social etiquette about this, and a social cue to this, he shared his dream with his family and in a bravado sort of way. So not everybody was okay with this, okay? His brothers were not okay with him being his dad's favorite, and his brothers were definitely not okay with him sharing his dreams of him ruling them one day. So, how did they respond? How did they respond to this? Well, it goes into Genesis, and it's in Genesis chapter 37 that we kind of dive into. Genesis chapter 37, 18. It says, and I'm speaking of his brothers, but when they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. Wow. This whole story just went from 0 to 100 in the first verse that I'm talking about here. So it goes on and it says, "Here comes that dreamer," they said to each other. "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams." Well, despite his anger towards Joseph, one of his brothers, his name was Reuben, actually had a conscience at the moment. It goes on and it says, when Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. "Let's not take his life," he said. "Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him." Reuben said this to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. Well, not bad, Reuben. Pretty cool. Considering he convinced his brothers to throw Joseph into a well instead of getting all homicidal on him. He even planned on coming back to rescue Joseph later. So the brothers listened to Reuben. And when Joseph approached, they ripped off the special coat his father had given him, and they threw him in the well. But they're still not done. They're still not done. See, they noticed a caravan of traders that were approaching. Judah, another one of Joseph's many brothers, suggested that they sell Joseph to these traders. After all, selling Joseph to a group who would most likely make him a slave is way better than murdering him, right? Right? I mean, when you are given the option of, well, should we murder him or throw him into slavery, the lesser of two evils. So that's exactly what they did. And what happened was they dipped Joseph's coat in the blood of a wild animal. They took it to their father and they told him that Joseph was likely attacked and killed by an animal. So check this scene out. It goes on in Genesis, it says, they took the ornate robe back to their father and said, "We found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe." That last line tells everything we need to know about the situation. The brothers obviously knew that the coat belonged to Joseph. No brainer. They brought it up to let their dad know that they noticed the way he favored Joseph. They were mad about it. They were hurt by it. They didn't call it Joseph's robe or our brother's robe. They said, "Your son's robe." Those words were keenly savage. Keenly. Now, for Joseph, we simply cannot imagine the fear, the despair, the anxiety, the uncertainty, and even the anger and hurt that he felt. Betrayed by his own flesh and blood, sold into real slavery by his brothers. The message was being sent loud and clear. Joseph, you know something? We're better off without you. So, our stories are way different than Joseph's, okay? But we will all experience some sort of pain or some sort of situation or discomfort or left hook or whatever it is, i.e. right now in our lives, something that is going to disrupt. We'll have these moments where life doesn't make any sense and what goes on doesn't make any sense. And we are going to find it hard to find the right words, to find the right actions, to try and process this. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult to process what's happening. But I want to highlight 5 powerful words that show up in the historical account of his life. While they didn't keep him from getting thrown into a pit, and they didn't keep him from getting sold into slavery, these 5 words literally made all the difference and helped Joseph maybe more than anything else. Because in the next verse, in Genesis 39:2, it says, "The Lord was with Joseph." The Lord was with Joseph. Joseph didn't have a lot going on for him in the pit, and even less afterwards. But when Joseph was in despair and wondering how life would turn out, we've all been there. How is this all going to turn out? He could rely on a single truth. God was with him. God was with him. Did this truth change the reality for Joseph's situation? No. But it was better than being alone. This truth didn't mean that Joseph could easily deal with the things that happened to him. It didn't mean that he had a reason or explanation for the pain in his life or what was going on in his life, but he didn't have to figure it out all by himself. And see, the same is true for us. When there's nothing you can do, God is with you. Does it feel like there's nothing we can do right now? Sure. We can stay at home. Sure, we can wash our hands as much as possible. We can wear our COVID masks when we go out, if we have to go out. We can do our part. But is there anything else we can do? There's nothing else we can do. God is with you. See, when life hands you fear and uncertainty and you don't know what to do, God is with you. And you know, truthfully, I will say, let's talk about the elephant in the room. We hear that all the time. We hear it all the time. God is with you. Oh, really? Where? You know? We hear it all the time. And so often that the words actually lose their meaning. We don't really feel them. But think about it for a second. Think about it for a second. God is with you. Not in some abstract way, but he is literally present near you, next to you, when you feel alone. And when you can fully understand this and embrace this truth, it changes things. Our circumstances may not change, but it changes our perspective on our situation. Think about it. More than anything, it gives us hope that we can keep going even when it feels like we can't. How many more days of this do we have to endure? How many more weeks of this do we have to endure? Seniors are missing their proms and their graduations. 8th graders are missing their walks. We're missing work. We're missing church. How much longer is this going to happen? Knowing that God is with us may not change our circumstances, but it just might change us. It's so easy. It's so easy to give into the hurt we've experienced, the situation, the anxiety, the fear, the uncertainty. It's so easy to let it all overwhelm us and consume us. We have a lot of reasons to let difficult and sometimes unfair situations get the last word. But when we know that God is with us, the uncertainty of life doesn't get that last word. God gets the last word. Now, there are no formulas to this. There's no easy answers. I can't just pull something out of my pocket and go, this is how you do it. It's obviously easier said than done. But what can I offer you as far as suggestions? Be real. Feel your feelings. Everyone will go through tough times and pain. There are no cliches to make it better, to make the hard times go away. And you know what? Our job is not to just suck it up and act like everything is okay. You see, if we believe that God is with us, then we should know, listen to this, we should know that God is more than okay with our honest questions, our honest doubts, and our honest fears. Also, remind yourself, remind others that God is with you. God is with you. And this story, your story, is not over yet. Know that you're not alone. Know that God is with you. Be smart, be safe, be of God.